He was once the biggest name on Fox News, pulling in over $30 million a year, capable of shaking up Washington with just a single sentence. But then, he vanished. He walked away from the largest television network in America, turned down a multi-million-dollar contract, and started broadcasting from some mystery room nobody can pinpoint. He lives in a mansion on a secluded island, cruises around in a BMW with no license plates, and landed an interview with Vladimir Putin, something no American journalist has managed since the war. Nobody knows who's backing him, and no one's quite sure which side he's on. Tucker Carlson, the man who once held the most powerful voice in America, remains the one we know the least about. He carries this razor-sharp confidence, but behind it, there's a motherless childhood, a string of secrets he's never shared, and wounds that have never been named. So, who exactly is Tucker, and why does he feel the need to hide his true self? Tucker Carlson grew up without a mother. He struggled with dyslexia, got mocked by his peers, and nobody thought he'd amount to much. But that little boy didn't give up. Years later, he became the most influential voice on American television, with a net worth estimated at $380 million, while many assume he was raised in wealth and privilege. The truth is, Tucker had a childhood full of gaps, secrets nobody dared to probe, and perhaps no one fully understands. Tucker was born in 1969 in San Francisco, but his life wasn't as easy as his later wealth might suggest. When he was 6 years old, his mother, Lisa Lombardi, left the family to chase a bohemian lifestyle. She never came back. Tucker and his younger brother, Buckley, were raised by their father, Richard Carlson, a journalist and diplomat, alone with unanswered questions. Tucker grew up carrying the weight of abandonment. To make matters worse, Tucker had dyslexia. Words on a page looked like a jumbled river to him. Teachers told him he'd never succeed, and his classmates laughed, but instead of giving in, Tucker trained his memory, memorizing entire lectures rather than reading them. That rare skill later became his secret weapon on television. His father remarried Patricia Swanson, an heiress to the prominent Swanson family. That's when the family's finances stabilized. But it also sparked rumors. Was Tucker raised in the lap of the elite? Is that why some call him a child of privilege? In reality, Tucker lived modestly in La Jolla, attending ordinary schools, not the lavish ones people imagined, and though his father was a seasoned journalist, Tucker didn't have a red carpet rolled out for him in the industry. He had to prove himself, starting from scratch. When he was 10 years old, during a classroom lesson, a teacher made him read a passage aloud, one he couldn't decipher. Giggles erupted from his classmates, but Tucker stood up, looked them in the eye, and declared, "I'll prove I can do it, just not your way." That moment wasn't just a flash of anger, it was the spark of a fire that began to burn in a boy who'd been left behind. From a kid written off by others, Tucker set out to prove his worth not in the classroom, but in the world of journalism. His path, though, was far from smooth. Who opened the first door that led him into the world of media? Tucker Carlson started his career with a low-paying job proofreading at a small conservative magazine. Nobody paid attention to his name back then, but just a few years later, he was on live television at CNN, the biggest network in America. An extraordinary leap, almost too fast, and right from the start, people were whispering it's not by chance that someone like him was chosen. After graduating from Trinity College in 1991, Tucker had little to show: no journalism degree, no television experience, no camera-ready looks. Yet he landed a gig at Policy Review, then the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. There. He started writing, but his style didn't win fans. One editor told him, "You write like you're trying to take someone down without leaving fingerprints." Tucker didn't argue. He just smiled and kept writing. He once signed a deal to publish a book, People vs. Crime, but right before the final manuscript was due, he vanished from the project. No explanation. Rumors swirled that the book touched on sensitive corners of the media industry. Others said someone advised him to drop it if he wanted to go further. By now, people were starting to notice, not because he stood out, but because he seemed protected. In 1995, Tucker joined the Weekly Standard, a paper tied closely to the conservative political scene during the Bush era. That's where his talent finally got attention. But what really stood out wasn't his writing, It was the network of people he rubbed shoulders with. Someone in the industry once said, "He's not overly friendly, but there's always someone standing close by." It was a presence that made people cautious, not exactly because of power, but because nobody knew what he represented. In 2000, at a DC journalism event, Tucker had a brief sideline chat with a senior CNN executive. Nobody knows what they said, nobody overheard. But just weeks later, Tucker, a guy who'd never hosted a show, was invited to co-host The Spin Room, a live political program. And that's when the rumors exploded. Some CNN colleagues pushed back. One producer said bluntly, "We don't get why they picked him. Honestly, nobody in the room knew what was going on." Some thought he was pushed up by people looking to create a counterweight in cable news. Others wondered, was Tucker backed by a force outside politics? One with hidden influence. When asked about that CNN meeting, he only said, "I don't remember exactly what they said, but I remember the feeling like they already knew me." His first time on air, Tucker barely moved, but he wasn't nervous. He was watching, and according to someone on the crew, he whispered, "I don't need to be liked, I just need them to keep watching." From that moment, Tucker was no longer an anonymous writer. He was a growing force, and nobody was quite sure where he came from. What do you think made someone with no on-screen looks, no broadcasting experience, get picked to host a live political show on CNN? Tucker started appearing on screens every night, with a delivery that forced people to listen whether they loved him or not. But there's something else worth noting: the life behind the camera. A world most viewers never see. And if you think all this was just coincidence, wait until you hear how he lives in Boca Grande. Tucker Carlson isn't the type to show off, but he lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion on a secluded island, drives a discreet BMW, and sometimes his schedule is more secretive than the president's. On television, he's the most influential figure in conservative media. In real life, hardly anyone knows how he lives. And the question is, why does Tucker Carlson keep such a low profile? What's being hidden behind the high walls of the estates he owns? We're about to find out. Tucker Carlson doesn't pick sides. He's called out both Trump and Biden, taken swings at everyone from the Pentagon to Wall Street, and never seemed worried about being canceled from the airwaves. The scary part? He says all this in front of millions every night. Tucker Carlson. Tonight was the most watched cable news show in America, pulling in over 3 million viewers nightly. People didn't tune in because they always agreed they watched because no one could predict what he'd say next. In 2018, he released Ship of Fools, a book that went after both political parties and still hit the New York Times bestseller list. It came with a $15 million deal, and Tucker vanished from the spotlight right after, like he didn't want anyone asking questions. Before that, he co-founded the Daily Caller, then quietly stepped away after selling his stake for about $4 million, offering no explanation. Every time he moves forward, something seems to shift behind him, but nobody sees it. Then, in 2024, the world was stunned. Tucker landed a one-on-one interview with Vladimir Putin. Nobody in media knew how he pulled it off. No agency took credit, and Tucker didn't say a word. By 2025, he'd earned over $120 million from television, books, and quiet business deals, with a net worth of about $380 million. But he doesn't live like a celebrity. He lives like someone or something is allowing him to do what others wouldn't dare. Tucker Carlson doesn't hang out in bustling cities. He lives on a secluded island called Boca Grande, where there are no high-rise hotels, no shopping malls, and barely any press. There, he owns 2 mansions. The first, in Boca Grande, worth about $5.5 million, is a Mediterranean-style estate, completely renovated. It's surrounded by a 12-foot-high fence of coconut palms and cedar, with a wrought iron gate fitted with remote sensors. Inside, the floors are Jerusalem limestone. The kitchen has a solid Vermont soapstone counter, a rare material that's hard to maintain but warm and non-reflective, perfect for someone like Tucker who craves quiet. The living room has sliding glass doors opening to a pool lined with Moorish-style mosaic tiles, custom-made to match the color of his wife Susan's eyes. A portrait of former President Coolidge hangs on the wall, not because Tucker admires him, but because, as a family member once shared, he was the best at staying silent in American history. Behind the pool is a hidden room no one outside the family has ever entered. Some sources claim it holds a fireproof safe for paper files, offline manuscripts, letters, and notes from private calls. The second property, not far away, smaller, worth $2.9 million, was once a summer cottage, now a personal headquarters. It's not just for living, but for private work. The roof is patinated copper, UV resistant and soundproof. The office is paneled with solid walnut from northern Canada, with an antique map on the wall, no labels, just coordinates marked in pencil. At the center of the room sits an IBM Selectric 2 typewriter, offline, and according to a close associate, that's where he writes every opening line. The final property, a cabin in Maine, practically doesn't exist on any map. No official address, no house number. Built from aged black pine using 18th century Finnish techniques. It has a brick fireplace, a small dining table for four, and a fixed telescope by the window. Nobody knows what he uses it for. Locals say that on stormy nights, the property emits a faint glow, like a flashlight flickering in the woods, but when they get close, everything goes dark. No alarms, no guards, just absolute silence. Tucker's homes aren't about flaunting wealth. They're like checkpoints where he safeguards memories, controls information, and decides who enters his world. Not every rich man needs a roaring engine to prove his status. Tucker Carlson drives the way he hosts his show quietly, sharply, with no wasted moves. His daily driver is a BMW 540 iX Drive, worth about $80,000, customized to his taste. The interior is navy merino leather, not the usual industrial black with hand-stitched ivory threading. It rides on 19-inch M performance wheels, understated but sleek. The 3-liter i6 twin-power turbo engine is smooth but powerful enough to outpace any SUV lingering on Boca Grande's entry roads. One small but telling detail: he removed all voice-activated sensors, replacing them with physical buttons. "I don't need my car talking to me," he once joked off-air. The default GPS is disabled. He uses old paper maps or memory. A 1997 Florida map, neatly folded, is taped inside the trunk. When he needs to escape the camera's glare, Tucker drives a Chevrolet Tahoe Z71 around a 2018 model, now worth about $45,000. This SUV has no cosmetic upgrades. The gray paint is original, with hunting trip scratches left untouched. The backseat always holds a vintage French press coffee maker, a canvas bag of books, and a folded wool blanket. A faded Grateful Dead sticker clings to the rear window, a relic of a past nobody sees unless they're a few steps away. His oldest, most talked about vehicle is a '29 Subaru Forester, worth about $7,000 to $8,000, parked at the main cabin. The engine's dated, the AC only works on level 3, and the radio picks up just one AM news station and a local broadcast. But the interior is lined with insulation, likely for winter forest trips. A red string hangs from the side mirror, no one knows why. Neighbors say that during heavy snow, tire tracks appear on the path, but no headlights are ever seen. Nobody knows when he drives it or if someone else has been to the cabin. These cars don't need to be flashy to stand out, but if you look closely, every detail is deliberate, just like the private, calculated life Tucker Carlson has chosen. If one man can spark a national debate with a single sentence, how do you think he lives off-screen? The answer almost nobody knows, and that's exactly how Tucker Carlson wants it. His day starts early, around 5 in the morning. No alarm, just natural light through the Boca Grande mansion's windows. He brews French press coffee, dark roast, no sugar. In the kitchen, there's no modern espresso machine, just a small kettle, ceramic mugs, and a slightly worn gas stove. Someone once quipped, "If you didn't know who he was, you'd think this was a classic novelist's home, not a man worth over $380 million. He reads 5 to 6 news sources every morning. But never Twitter. He says social media blurs the truth. Instead, it's print papers, handwritten notes, and sometimes hour-long private calls, no assistance. No one knows who's on the line. His schedule is handwritten, rarely shared in advance. At midday, if he's not filming or on air, he's biking around the island or hunting with friends, but never posing for photos. The rare times Tucker's spotted in public, there's no bodyguard, no entourage, just him. in jeans, a checkered shirt, and worn LL Bean boots. Tucker spends less than you'd expect. No watch collection, no wine cellar, no golf, no splurging on things for people craving recognition. What he invests in most is time and quiet, something he believes is growing rarer in this noisy world. Weekends are for his wife, Susan Andrews, his high school sweetheart, and their 4 kids. At the main cabin, no TV, no cell signal, just firewood and the sound of the forest at night. The one place he truly disappears. If you ask where Tucker Carlson is most himself, not on Fox, not on a podcast, but at home, with his wife and 4 kids, no script, no cameras, just a regular guy with private moments he's never shared on air. He met Susan Andrews at 15, at St. George's boarding school. Her father was the headmaster, and Susan once told a friend, "Tucker's the strangest guy in my class, but the only one not pretending to be someone else." They fell in love then, married in 1991, and since no scandals, no rumors, a quiet marriage lasting over 3 decades, rare in Tucker's world. They have 4 children, 3 daughters, and a son, all raised far from the media's glare. No press photos, no public statements, no famous social media accounts. When asked, he says, "I'm the public figure, not my kids. They deserve peace." Known for his polarizing remarks, Tucker is discreet about charity. The press rarely mentions it. But groups like Wounded Warrior Project, St. Jude's, and Florida Hurricane Relief Funds have received large anonymous donations from a Carlson family trust. With Susan, he also funds a quiet scholarship program for low-income students who struggled academically like he did as a kid. A school representative once said, "He had one request: don't mention my name." In a world where everyone's vying to be seen, Tucker keeps his family out of sight. But the more he hides, the more people wonder what secrets lie behind those closed doors. Tucker Carlson has no shortage of enemies. Some mock him on television, others try to yank him off the stage. Even those who once called him a close ally have turned their backs. But here's the strange thing: Tucker doesn't fade away. The more he's attacked, the more dangerous he becomes. In 2004, a crossfire taping turned into a verbal showdown between Tucker and Jon Stewart. Stewart didn't just challenge him, he made the whole country laugh at him. A month later, Crossfire was canceled. For anyone else, that would have been a career ender. But Tucker vanished for a bit, then reappeared on MSNBC. No apologies, no explanations. As if he knew all along this is just the opening act. Then came a wave of allegations, leaked internal emails, workplace accusations. The media branded him the toxic face of American conservatism. Major brands pulled their ads. Yet, every night, millions still waited for him to go on air. They didn't need him to be likable, they needed him to say what others wouldn't dare. Then came the pivot that stunned the industry in 2023. Tucker left Fox News. No scandal, no firing, he just walked away from $25 million. And in the silence, he launched Tucker on X. No network, no constraints. Nobody knows who's backing him. Within weeks, over 15 million followers. Just him, a camera, and millions of eyes watching. The peak came in 2024 when he interviewed Vladimir Putin amid global tensions. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a jab straight at the heart of Western media. Who gave him access to Russia? Who made the connection? Or was Tucker the only one bold enough to walk through that door? And why did Putin choose him, not CNN, not BBC, not the New York Times, just Tucker? It doesn't stop there. In June 2025, he openly criticized Donald Trump's Middle East policies. Trump, who once saw Tucker as the leading voice of conservatism, fired back with a scathing post-kooky traitor. Social media split into camps. But Tucker, he sat there, went on air, and kept that same cool, steady tone, like nothing happened. After all this, people started asking, does anyone actually control Tucker? Has anyone ever seen him nervous, scared, or bowing down? Or are the scandals and attacks just fuel he uses to build his power? If the hits from the media, the political world, and even his allies can't take him down, what can? Or, as he once put it, I don't belong to any side. I just want to see the hidden truth exposed. They call him the most powerful conservative in America. Others see him as a symbol of division. But in the end, when the stage lights dim, Tucker Carlson's legacy isn't about praise or criticism. It's about how he turned every challenge in his life into an unexpected step forward. Not many know that he and his wife, Susan, have quietly funded scholarships for high schools in rural Virginia, or that he's donated over $3 million to disaster victims, veterans, and education programs for struggling kids. No press releases, no photo ops with oversized checks, just anonymous entries in the records. Once, a former Marine wrote on X, "I don't agree with Tucker, but my wife worked with a wounded warrior program he's supported for years. You don't have to like him to know he's got heart." For Tucker, it seems the more personal something is, the more he wants to keep it private. So much so that people wonder, is he crafting an image or just shielding the human side he doesn't want the world to touch? His influence is undeniable. With just an iPhone and a home studio, he can make all of Washington stop and listen. At one point, a video he posted late at night racked up 85 million views in 48 hours. No edits, no script, no filters. But what haunts people isn't the view count, it's his independence. In a media world driven by money and factions, Tucker is almost an outsider, and that's exactly what makes him dangerous. From a dyslexic kid mocked by his peers to a man bold enough to call out both Democrats and Republicans, Tucker Carlson doesn't live to be loved, he lives to make you rethink, even for a second. And maybe that's the biggest lesson he leaves behind. You don't need to be likable, you don't need a clear path, you just need to stay true to yourself. If his journey from an abandoned child to a man who commands a nation's attention is real, then you too can rewrite your own story, no matter your age. What about you? Have you ever been underestimated and quietly proved them wrong? If so, share your story in the comments below. Who knows, it might just inspire someone out there who needs a spark of hope.